You are a thief, a very big one. This is why I hate poor people.
I woke up that morning as a wife. By afternoon, they had turned me into a criminal. I heard my name before I even reached the bottom of the stairs. Not called, not spoken, screamed, "Ruth, come down here right now!" My mother-in-law's voice hit me like cold water thrown in the face, sharp, sudden, and designed to wake something up inside you. My heart was already pounding before my feet touched the last step. I didn't know what was coming, but something in the pit of my stomach already knew it was bad. I walked into the living room and stopped. Everyone was there, and I mean everyone. Mama Thomas, my mother-in-law, was standing in the middle of the room like a judge who had already made her decision and was only waiting for the accused to arrive. Beside her stood Aunt Patricia, the family's loudest voice and biggest gossip, her arms folded across her chest, her eyes already full of verdict. Uncle Benson sat in the corner chair, quiet but watching. Daniel's sister Cynthia was on the couch with her phone already raised, already recording. And Daniel, my husband, Daniel was standing by the window with his back half turned to me, and when I walked in, he looked at me the way you look at a stranger you are not sure you can trust. That look, that one look, it cut deeper than anything that came after it. "Sit down," Mama Thomas said. "What is going on?" I asked. My voice came out smaller than I wanted it to. "I said sit down, Ruth." I sat. Mama Thomas reached into the fold of her wrapper and pulled out a printed bank statement. She held it up with 2 fingers, the way you hold something dirty that you don't want touching your skin, and she dropped it on the glass table in front of me. 2,400,000 naira, she said slowly, gone from the family account, and every transfer, every single one, carries your name. The room was so quiet I could hear the clock on the wall. I looked at the paper. I looked at the numbers. I looked at the account name printed at the top, Ruth Thomas, and my blood went cold because yes, that was my name, but that was not my account. That was not my handwriting on the signature line. Those were not my transactions. "This is not me," I said. Mama Thomas laughed, not a funny laugh, a sharp, bitter laugh that came out of her nose. "Not you," she repeated, turning to the room. "You hear her? Not her." And Patricia clicked her tongue. "These ones, they come into your house, they eat your food, they sleep in your bed, and then they clean out your account and stand there with a straight face." "Auntie, please," I started. "Don't auntie me," she snapped. "I told my brother when Daniel was bringing you here. I said it. This girl has hungry eyes. But nobody listened to me." I turned to Daniel. "Daniel, please. You know me. You know I would never." "Daniel." His voice was flat, empty, like something inside him had already switched off. "They found cash in your wardrobe." Everything in me went still. "What?" His cousin Kevin walked out from the hallway holding a brown envelope. Kevin, who called me Big Sis every Sunday. Kevin, who sat at my table and ate the food I cooked and laughed at my jokes and borrowed money from me twice without paying back. Kevin walked into that room with that envelope and placed it on the table beside the bank statement with the careful, deliberate movement of a man telling the truth. Inside the envelope, 50,000 naira in cash and 3 receipts. "Found it under her winter clothes," Kevin said, quietly, shaking his head with the sorrow of a man deeply disappointed. I looked at those notes, I looked at those receipts, and I knew with a certainty that sat in my bones like iron that I had never seen them before in my life. But what could I say? How do you prove you have never seen something? How do you stand in a room full of people who have already decided and make them undecide? Mama Thomas walked towards me slowly. She stopped 2 feet away. She looked at me the way you look at something on the ground that you are about to step over. "I want you out of this house, today, before evening." "Mama," Daniel said weakly. "Don't mama me, Daniel. Your wife has stolen from this family, from your father's memory, from everything we built." Her voice cracked slightly, not from sadness, but from anger that found its perfect shape. "Get her out." I looked at Daniel one last time. He looked away. I went upstairs and I packed my bag alone. Nobody helped me. Nobody came to check on me. I packed in silence while the noise of the family's anger floated up through the ceiling and filled the room that had been mine for 13 months. I zipped my bag. I walked out. It was not raining. I almost wished it was. Rain would have felt appropriate. Instead, the sun was out, bright, indifferent, shining on everything equally. And I stood at the gate of that book house with my single bag and the sound of Cynthia's laughter drifting from inside. And I breathed. I told myself, they think they have finished me. They are wrong.
My sister Ada opened the door before I even knocked. She took one look at my face and pulled me inside without a single word. That is the thing about sisters who know you. They don't need an explanation. They read your body the way they read their own, and Ada read mine correctly. She sat me down, put water on the gas, and waited. I told her everything. She listened without interrupting, which was unusual for Ada, who had opinions about everything and rarely kept them to herself. But she sat across from me at that small kitchen table, and she listened to every word. And when I finished, she was quiet for so long that I started to feel afraid. Then she said, "Kevin." Just the name, nothing else. "What?" I asked. "Something has been wrong with Kevin for months," Ada said carefully. "You remember my friend Temi? Her boyfriend runs a pole betting shop off the expressway. She told me 2 months ago that Kevin Thomas comes there almost every day, that he owes serious money, that some people have been looking for him." I felt something shift inside me, a small movement, like the first crack in a wall before it falls. "How much?" I asked. Temi didn't say exactly, but she said it was the kind of amount that makes a man desperate. Desperate. I turned that word over in my mind. Desperate men do desperate things. Desperate men with access to a household, access to family documents, access to a sister-in-law's wardrobe, access to the trust of a family that was already looking for a reason not to accept her. "Ada," I said, "I need you to help me." "I'm already helping you," she said simply, and pushed the cup of tea toward me. The next morning, Daniel called. I stared at his name on my screen for a long time before I answered. Part of me wanted to reject the call. Part of me, the part that had loved this man for 3 years, planned a future with him, believed in him, picked up. "Ruth." His voice was tired, as if he was the one who had been thrown out of his own home. Daniel, listen to me." I kept my voice steady, calm, because I had learned something important overnight. Panic gives people permission to dismiss you. Calm forces them to actually listen. "I did not steal that money. I did not open that account. I have never made a single transaction from it. And I think you know me well enough to at least ask yourself if that is possible." Silence. "Ruth, Kevin is my..." "I know who Kevin is. That's exactly what I'm telling you." The line stayed open for a few more seconds. Then he said, "I'll call you back," and hung up. He did not call back that day, or the next. Meanwhile, the family WhatsApp group, which I was still somehow on, became a place I could not bear to look at but could not stop checking. Relatives I had never met were weighing in. People who ate jollof rice at my wedding were now typing paragraphs about my character. Mama Thomas posted a Bible verse about thieves. Auntie Patricia shared a voice note, a full 4-minute voice note about women who marry for money. Cynthia posted a photo of herself and Kevin at a restaurant with the caption, "Real ones stay together." 100 emoji. Kevin, smiling in the photo, relaxed, comfortable, the smile of a man who believed he had won. And somewhere inside me, watching that smile, something hardened into steel. "You made a mistake, Kevin," I thought. "You chose the wrong woman to destroy." I called Temi myself that evening. Ada gave me the number. Temi was cautious at first, understandably so, because nobody wants to be pulled into family drama. But when I explained what had happened to me, something in her softened. "The man Kevin owes," she said quietly. "His name is Big Victor. He's not a small man, Ruth. Kevin has been owing him for almost 8 months. The last amount I heard, and this is not confirmed, is somewhere around 2 million. 2 million. The exact amount missing from the Thomas family account." I wrote it down. I wrote everything down. I had started keeping a notebook. Every detail, every conversation, every piece of information that Ada or Temi or anyone passed to me, I wrote it all in small, careful handwriting because I knew that the day of reckoning would come, and when it came, I would need to be ready. I was not going to stand in that family's living room again with nothing but my word. This time, I was going to walk in with proof. It was Ada's husband, James, who broke the whole thing open. James was a quiet man who drove a lot for his work. Deliveries, logistics, always on the road, always knowing somebody who knew somebody. He came home one Thursday evening and sat down at the table where Ada and I were eating. And he said, without preamble, "I saw Kevin today." We both looked up. "Where?" Ada asked. "Festac, near the area where Big Victor operates." James helped himself to a portion of rice, calm as ever. Kevin was coming out of a building with 2 other men. He didn't see me, but I saw him clearly. He paused. He looked scared. "Scared how?" I asked. "Like a man running out of time," James said simply. That night, I could not sleep. I lay on Ada's couch and I stared at the ceiling and I assembled everything I had. Timmy's information, James's sighting, the inconsistencies in those bank statements that I had been studying every day until I nearly had the numbers memorized. And I felt it. I felt the shape of the truth beginning to emerge from underneath all the lies, the way a bone emerges when the flesh is pulled back. I needed one more thing. I needed the account. I needed to prove that the account opened in my name was not mine. I went to the bank myself. I dressed simply, carried my original document, and I walked to the branch manager's desk and I sat down. And I said very clearly, "I believe someone has opened a fraudulent account in my name, and I need your help to confirm it." The branch manager, a serious woman in her 40s named Mrs. Adeyemi, looked at me carefully. Then she looked at my documents. Then she made a phone call. What she found took less than 20 minutes. There was indeed a second account bearing my name. The BVN attached to it was not mine. The phone number registered to it was not mine. The signature on the account opening form, when she printed it and placed it next to my own signature on my original account document, was similar but not identical. Close enough to fool a quick glance, not close enough to fool a careful comparison. Mrs. Adeyemi looked at me over her glasses. "You need to report this formally," she said. "This is identity fraud." "I know. I'm building the case first. I want everything documented before I make any move." She nodded slowly. "I'll prepare an official bank report confirming the discrepancy. You'll have it by Monday." I walked out of that bank and stood on the street and I breathed the afternoon air. And for the first time in 2 weeks, I felt something other than pain. I felt power. Meanwhile, James had done something else quietly without telling me until it was done. He had a friend, a young man who repaired phones and computers, who had helped him pull something interesting. Kevin had borrowed James's portable charger at a family event 3 months earlier and connected his phone briefly. The young man confirmed that the device registered on the network at that location and time matched a phone number that appeared repeatedly in connection with the fraudulent account registration. It was Kevin's number. His actual personal number, the number I had saved in my own phone under Kevin T with a little thumbs up emoji because he used to make me laugh. I sat with all of this information spread across Ada's dining table, the bank reports, James's documentation, Temi's testimony written out in a statement, the account discrepancy printout, and I looked at it for a long time. Then I called Daniel. This time, he picked on the first ring, as if he had been waiting. "I have proof, real proof, not allegations, not feelings, documents, bank records, and a witness." I paused. "I want a family meeting this Saturday. Everyone present. Your mother, Aunt Patricia, Uncle Benson, Cynthia, and Kevin, especially Kevin." A long silence. "Ruth, if what you're saying is true." "It is true, Daniel. The question is whether you love the truth more than you love your comfort." My voice did not waver. "Saturday,
I'll be there at noon. He said he would arrange it. I put the phone down and looked at Ada. She was already nodding slowly, her arms folded, her eyes full of something fierce and proud. Saturday, she said. Saturday, I agreed.
I wore the same dress I had been wearing the day they threw me out. Ada thought I should wear something new, something powerful, something that said, I have moved on, but I disagreed. I wanted them to see that dress. I wanted Mama Thomas to look at it and remember the afternoon she pointed at me in front of her family and called me a thief. I wanted the memory to be in the room with us. James drove us. Ada sat beside me in the back seat and held my hand the entire way without saying anything. Outside the window, Lagos moved at its usual pace, chaotic, loud, indifferent, and I watched it and felt strangely calm. Not the calm of someone who is not afraid, the calm of someone who has already decided that fear is no longer allowed to make decisions for them. The gate of the Thomas house opened when James honked. The same security man who had watched me leave with my bag 2 weeks ago was on duty. He recognized me. Something moved across his face. Not quite guilt, but close to it. He opened the gate wide. They were all in the living room. Mama Thomas in her usual chair, Auntie Patricia beside her, Uncle Benson, Cynthia on the couch, phone in hand as always, 3 other relatives I recognized from family gatherings, Daniel standing by the wall with his hands in his pockets, not quite looking at me and not quite looking away, and Kevin. Kevin was seated at the far end of the room, leaning back, one leg crossed over the other, wearing a light blue shirt. When I walked in, he glanced up, and for just 1 second, one fraction of a second, something flickered in his eyes. Not guilt, not yet. Something more like calculation, like a chess player trying to figure out the next move. I sat down. Ada sat beside me. James stood near the door. I placed my folder on the table. Not the glass table where Kevin had laid his fake evidence. I chose the wooden side table, deliberately, away from the center. I did not open the folder yet. Thank you for agreeing to this meeting, I said. I spoke to the room, not to any one person. Calm, measured, every word chosen. I know many of you have already decided what you believe about me. I'm not here to beg anyone to change their minds. I'm here to show you the truth. And what you do with it afterwards is between you and your conscience. Mama Thomas made a sound in her throat. You have 2 minutes. Say what you have to say. I opened the folder. I started with the bank report. I placed it on the table and walked them through it slowly. The fraudulent account, the different BVN, the forged signature. Mrs. Adeyemi had written a formal letter on the bank's letterhead, clear and precise, confirming that the account used to make the transfers was not legitimately mine and showed evidence of identity fraud. The room was very quiet. Then I placed Temi's written statement. Kevin's gambling debts, Big Victor, 2 million naira owed over 8 months. I watched Kevin's leg uncross. Then I placed James's documentation, the phone number, the connection to the account registration. I heard Auntie Patricia's sharp intake of breath. Finally, I placed the bank transaction timeline next to Kevin's phone records, showing that on the same days the fraudulent transfers were made, Kevin's registered number had been used to authorize activities on the fake account. I closed the folder. I did not steal from this family, I said, quietly. I have never stolen anything in my life, but someone in this room did, and then they used my name to hide it. The silence that followed was the loudest thing I had ever heard. Everyone turned, slowly, the way people turn when they are afraid of what they will see, and looked at Kevin. Kevin was staring at the table. His jaw was tight. His hands, which had been so steady and confident 2 weeks ago when he laid that white envelope down, were now pressed flat against his thighs, as if trying to stop themselves from shaking. Kevin. Daniel's voice came out strange, scraped clean of everything except pain. Kevin, look at me. Kevin did not look up. Kevin. Mama Thomas this time, a voice like the earth moving. Kevin's head came up slowly. And what was on his face, what I saw when his eyes finally met the room,
was not the righteous indignation of an innocent man being falsely implicated. It was something raw and broken and frightened. It was the face of a man whose last hiding place had just been taken from him. He needed time, he said. His voice was barely above a whisper. I was going to pay it back. I just needed time.
I needed time. Those 3 words fell into that living room and broke something that I don't think ever fully got repaired. Kevin began to talk, slowly at first, haltingly, like a man who has been holding his breath underwater for so long that coming up for air is painful. And as he talked, the room changed. I watched it change in real time, watched the faces of the people who had called me a thief, who had recorded me on their phones, who had typed paragraphs about my character on family WhatsApp groups. Watch those faces collapse. He had been gambling since his university days. Sports betting at first, then bigger things, card games, underground pools, men with money who gave credit easily and collected it harshly. When the debt with Big Victor reached a point where his own life felt in danger, he had panicked. He had access to the family account details through Daniel, who trusted him completely and shared passwords without thinking. He had access to my documents through our shared home. He had built the fake account over 3 months, moved the money in pieces, and when the family discovered the loss, he had been the first to suggest searching the house. He had suggested searching my room because he had already been in my room. He had put the cash and receipts in my wardrobe himself. I had carried his crime in my body for 2 weeks, in my stomach, in my chest, in the tightness of my throat every time someone said my name with judgment in their voice, and now it was coming out of his mouth like poison finally expelled from a wound, and I felt something I had not expected to feel. I did not feel triumphant. I felt tired. I felt deeply, profoundly tired in the way you feel when something difficult is finally over and your body, having held itself together by sheer will, finally allows itself to rest. Mama Thomas did not speak for a long time after Kevin finished. She sat in her chair. This woman who had looked down at me 2 weeks ago with such absolute certainty, such practiced contempt, and she looked old. For the first time since I had known her, Margaret Thomas looked like an old woman who was very, very tired. Auntie Patricia, the one who had spoken 4 minutes of voice note about women with hungry eyes, was staring at her own hands. Cynthia had put her phone down. She was not recording now. Uncle Benson rubbed his face slowly. And Daniel. Daniel had walked away from the wall. He was standing in the center of the room now, and he was looking at me with an expression I had never seen on his face before. Not the empty, switched-off look from 2 weeks ago. Something more complicated. Something that understood it had done damage and was only now beginning to calculate the full cost. "Ruth," he said. I looked at him. He stopped. Started again. "I should have." "You should have," I agreed. Not unkindly, but clearly. Because that was the truth, and we were a room full of truths now, and there was no longer space for anything softer. Mama Thomas rose from her chair. It took her a moment. She used the armrest to push herself up, and I noticed for the first time how that simple act of standing up cost her something. She walked toward me, slowly, and the room watched in complete silence. She stopped in front of me. I stood up so that we were face to face. For a moment, she just looked at me, and I looked back at her, this woman who had never fully accepted me, who called me not our kind in Yoruba on the day we met, who pointed her finger at me and stripped my name in front of 30 people. I looked at her and I did not look away. "I wronged you," she said. 3 words, no decoration, no Bible verse attached, no qualification, just 3 plain, hard words from a proud woman who clearly found them difficult. "You did," I said. "I am sorry." I did not say, "It's okay," because it was not okay. What had been done to me was not okay, and I had been raised to tell the truth, and pretending otherwise would have been the last dishonesty in a room that had finally run out of space for dishonesty.
But I said, I hear you. And I meant it. Kevin was taken out of that room by Uncle Benson and Daniel. I heard later that Big Victor was contacted, that arrangements were made, that the family dealt with the debt privately to avoid a public scandal. Kevin was removed from all family accounts, all family businesses, and sent to stay with a distant relative in another state. Whether he ever truly reckoned with what he had done, with the human being he was willing to sacrifice to save himself, I cannot tell you. That is between him and his own soul. As for Daniel and me, that is not a simple answer. What had broken between us in those 2 weeks did not simply unbreak because the truth came out. Trust is not a light switch. You cannot turn it back on with an apology, however sincere. We had long, difficult conversations. Some of them ended badly. Some of them ended in silence that lasted days. But Daniel came back. He came to Ada's apartment one evening without calling ahead and sat in the small kitchen where I had been eating and not sleeping and building my case. And he said, I failed you at the moment you needed me most. I know that. I'm not asking you to forget it. I'm asking you to give me the chance to spend however long it takes becoming someone who doesn't fail you again. What I said back to him is my business. But I will tell you this. I am back in my home. My name, my full name, has been cleared formally and completely, and the family members who spread the story were made to send corrections through the same channels they used to spread the lie. It was Mama Thomas who insisted on this. Whatever else she was, she understood that a name taken publicly must be returned publicly. The day I walked back through the gate of that house, Mr. Bello, the security man, was on duty. He saw me coming and he straightened up and smiled, the slow, careful smile of a man who had hoped for this moment. Welcome back, madame, he said. That was all, but it was enough. Because the woman who walked back through that gate was not the same woman who had walked out with a single bag and her hands shaking. That woman had been soft in places that needed to be strong, had swallowed things that needed to be spoken, had waited to be accepted by people who were not worth the waiting. The woman who came back knew her own name, and she dared anyone to take it from her again. If this story moved you, if Ruth's strength reminded you of your own, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now is the time. More stories like this are coming.